Our company probably 5 to 7x during COVID simply because, we were set up to sell products online. The one thing that it did for me that was really positive is my mind goes so quick. I stopped watching the news after like a month. I'm like, all right, this is utter chaos. No more news in our house. But the one thing that it did for me that I think was almost godsend was that I truthfully don't remember COVID. I really mean this when I say this to you because we were so busy that it was like head down, building programs. We had days where we were doing $800,000 a day in sales.
Welcome to Seriously Catherine, a podcast about taking your business seriously, but not yourself. I love saying Derek DeMeo. Derek DeMeo. Derek DeMeo is an accomplished business leader and CEO who has extensive experience in the e-commerce sector. What I love most about this episode is Derek shares with us how he took calculated risks to quit his full-time job and start his e-commerce company. He also shared lots of tips on how to balance his business and his family life. If you are in need of a shot of adrenaline and motivation to kick your butt in gear, this is the episode for you. Okay, everybody, this week's Facepalm Mom Moment is on the go. We are in the car on the way to meet someone in Clifton Park. So anyway, this week's Facepalm Mom Moment is sort of borrowed from my new friend on Instagram. Her name is Lena Forrestal, and she just shared this moment where she took her child to the wrong doctor for a doctor's appointment. I think she got the time wrong too. And it triggered a memory of mine when I brought the wrong child to the doctor's appointment, okay? So luckily, I am a mom of 3, so I had the right child with me, but I had literally left work early to go get Ruby from pre-K to bring her to the doctor's. Now, granted, at this moment in time, I didn't have childcare for Zia, who was my youngest, so she was always with me all the time anyway. So I went and picked Ruby up, checked out of school to bring her to the doctor's appointment. I get there, I'm checking in for Ruby, and they're like, Ruby doesn't have a doctor's appointment. And I'm like, what? I got like a million text messages about this. I confirmed, this is definitely a thing. And they're like, well, but Zia has a doctor's appointment. I was like, oh, well, perfect. I have Zia here with me. Anyway, so we went in. The doctor saw Zia, but regardless, I had literally gone out of my way to go get Ruby out of school, and then I had to go bring her back to school. It was a total disruption. I even had talked her up for this appointment in the event she needed to get shots. So, you talk your kid up to just prepare them emotionally if they might have to get shots. That was all for nothing because this child didn't even have a freaking doctor's appointment. So there you have it. You are not alone, Lena. And if anyone else has ever had this happen to them, please share your experience. It's really amazing when you can commiserate with other moms who are we're doing the best that we can. All right, guys, today I have something truly special for all of you listeners out there, especially if you're planning a getaway or a staycation in the heart of Saratoga Springs, New York. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the hidden gem of Saratoga Springs, the Adelphi Hotel. Not really hidden, though, because it is right smack dab in the middle of town on Broadway. If you're searching for an experience that combines history, luxury, and modern charm, the Adelphi Hotel is the place to be. It's more like a resort, if you ask me. I've had the opportunity to stay here, and let me tell you, it's an absolute dream. Did you know that they also host events and weddings? Yes, they do it all. The Adelphi Hotel is more than just a place to stay. It's an experience in itself. Picture yourself in a room with stunning decor and plush bedding. You will feel like royalty. If you're able, definitely book the Polaris room because it has a jacuzzi tub on the balcony. I mean, what mom doesn't need a staycation here with no kids and maybe even no husband? Foodies, listen up. Morrissey's Lounge and Bistro, their on-site restaurant, offers a culinary journey that's nothing short of exquisite. Have you had the best sushi in town yet? Well, this is where you get it. Get the rainbow roll. You'll thank me later. So, dear listeners, whether you're planning a romantic getaway, a girls' weekend, or just a relaxing solo escape, the Adelphi Hotel is your perfect destination. When you're here, you're not just a guest, you're part of the legacy of Saratoga Springs. Book your stay today. The Polaris Suite. I would like to talk to you about this is like, I'm sure people say like, oh yeah, Derek's ambitious and he's go, go, go. You know, like what is that? What do you think is inside of you that kind of forces that, like you're motivated?
That's a good question. I mean, I think when I was younger, I had probably more bad habits than good habits. And I think when you change bad habits, whatever those bad habits are, that energy has to flow into something else. And so, my first kind of job was corporate. I was working at like Pitney Bowes in my early 20s, and I hated it. And it wasn't the company itself, it was more the corporate culture. And I think in that moment, I had realized, all right, corporate's not for me, but I really liked the startup world. But I was kind of at ground zero. I didn't know what to do in the startup world or anything like that. And so as I started studying kind of the markets as they are right now, I was seeing that e-commerce was growing exponentially. And this is roughly a decade ago. And box store business retail was declining like 17% year over year, statistical data, right? And so I found this startup company in Manhattan. The name of the startup company was SureDone, and they were a multi-channel e-commerce software company. And so I submitted my resume. I got no response, but I really liked this company. I was following them on YouTube. I thought the little core team was really creative. I kind of felt like I knew them just watching all the videos. So I'm crafty. One day I get on, I go to their website, and they have a little chat. And I basically pretended that I was a customer and that I was slightly upset. And I had already pre-built what I wanted to say. So I said, I'd like to speak to the owner. I knew they were a small company, so I knew that I would get him on chat. Blah, blah, blah. Woman Yelena's talking to me. She was the head of marketing. Sure, let me grab Jason. So, hi, this is Jason. Can I help you? And then I just copy-pasted my insert. It was a very quick blurb saying, I don't have a ton of experience in this field. I'm incredible at sales. I'll work for free for 30 days. If you like what you see, let's talk. And the guy was literally looking for a head of sales at the time. So he gave me a shot. And I remember I worked from home, and I think I closed 23 deals in 30 days.
Wow.
And then we went down to New York. It was the first time. I closed 23 deals prior to meeting this guy in person. Mm-hmm. And I told him I don't even want money. Went down, met him in person, and he was like, you're the head of sales. And so that worked out well. That got me in the door there, obviously. We built a team under me. We brought on over 1,000 customers in the time frame that I was with this company. I closed a deal with Alibaba. We were embedding our technology on the back end of Alibaba's platform. So the concept was that Catherine could go on Alibaba, source a product, and simultaneously one-click that to multiple channels. So it was a listing component. And Alibaba loved this because of the technology play. So I learned a ton. I got my doctorate in e-commerce. I then realized the really good money and the really good way to grow is to develop the brands. And so I took a huge leap of faith. Like, my wife, super supportive. And so I remember going home to her. We were about to have Wes, our first boy. And I said, I want to quit my job. And she goes, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to start my own thing. I think that I know enough now, and I think I can replace my income in 90 days. And she goes, what's the worst that can happen? You're employable. And that was like all I needed to hear. I heard that for the first time. I think I believed it. You know what I mean when I say that? You know how when you go start your own thing, it's a little scary because I cut off a $200K a year job. Yeah. Right? Like that's good income. And so I did it. And in like 60 days, I replaced our income. And then it was just off to the races. And that I had started an agency called MDM, Magic Digital Media. And what I was doing was I was taking large-scale manufacturers overseas, all over the world, direct to Amazon with their own brand. This is what they wanted, but they didn't know how to do it. And it's very lucrative if you know how to do it. Yeah. And so I remember the first company that we took, I want to say we did almost $20 million in GMV the first year. Wow. Which was, that guy at that factory probably made $5 million off that. Yeah. I then realized, wow, the money is building the brands, right? And so that's a lot of fun too, and that's what we're really good at. I want to say fast forward probably, 2017-ish was when I met my business partner. We had launched our first brand together. That exploded in some respects, and then we just continued to launch brands. And then we got so big on Amazon that we were, I think, one point we were the 28th largest seller in the world.
Wow.
which is big.
Well, but
you know?
it's like, how are you meeting your partner? Like, how did you meet your partner? Was it just through networking or being in the room with the guy?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. There was a local gentleman. They went to college together at RPI. And my business partner now contacted him and said, I got to get in e-commerce. Like, retail is dying. Purchase orders from all the box stores are declining. My business partner, incredible guy. He has just impeccable foresight to be able to see where markets are going. And so at the time when I was approached to do this, I was making really good income. And I kept brushing it off. I turned down the first 2 meetings. Like, this was just so, you know how you get so busy and you're trying not to take on everything? So finally, my buddy came to me and he goes, you have to meet this guy. He wants to fly over from overseas. So we rented, at the time, Mazzone had a restaurant out in Clifton Park and nice hotel there, but they had this really nice boardroom. It was low key and chill. And we put him up there. We rented this boardroom, I think it was 3 days. The first hour when we were in this boardroom, I immediately knew that we were going to work together. It just was, you know how you have that synergy?
Yeah.
I mean, it was so connected instantly that we sat there over the course of 3 days on a whiteboard and we mapped out one product program, how to get to $100 million on it. Mm-hmm. And we hit $180 million on it before we sold it.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. And y'all are still, so that's like 2017?
That was 2017. Yeah.
Wow.
Towards end of 2016, somewhere in that era. Yeah.
And now you're just, it's like a copy and paste with different products that you see in the market that you think are going to be
Yes. I mean,
lucrative.
we look at evergreen products. So we're not typically the company that's going to go try and capitalize on fidget spinners when they're wildly popular. Mm-hmm. We like products that are evergreen, meaning that product can sell indefinitely. And I think that we look at the market quite different now. You know, we like products that are subscribe and save. So like I'm in beauty now with some business partners, and those business partners I met through a gaming investment. That gaming investment, that company went public, right? I seed rounded that company. So that was like a really big opportunity as our first investment. You know, I met these folks through Damon John's company, actually. Mm-hmm. Did some consulting for some of his brands, and they introduced me to a gentleman named Raz, another 3-hour phone call, never met him. I'm on a plane to Panama, right? Like Panama.
Yeah. And
I go out and meet him, and we sit down, and we look at everything that he's doing in the gaming space. And I didn't really understand it initially.
Were you a gamer like when you were little growing up?
Well, I mean, like Mario Brothers. I wasn't like a
but
crazy gamer.
Yeah.
Right? But he had this kind of technology play in the gaming side, and that was what was interesting to me. And so he's showing it to me. I'm looking at it. I'm like, I still don't grasp it. And he's like, if I can say this on here, he's like, do you smoke? I said, sure. So we burn a joint, and I'm looking at this, and instantly I was like, oh my God, I just saw it. I saw the vision. So I came back, I talked to my business partner. We wrote him a check for $1 million like a week later. That company, I think it was under 18 months, we sold it to a much larger company. And then we took that company public on the Toronto Stock Exchange. We actually just rang the bell. I missed it. It was last week.
Oh, what?
But yeah, I know.
How do you not show up for that?
School stuff with the kids. Chaos. It was like such chaos. But I did get to ring it at the New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah, you did in New York.
That was another company we invested in, yeah.
That's awesome.
So kind of back to that story. So, we were building everything out, and then the pandemic hits, right? And most would think like a lot of companies did suffer, and that was very tough.
I know, but
and
like in that moment, you're like, this is awesome.
It was.
You have to admit that this is just good timing for you in e-commerce. Like,
here's what I'm going to say to that.
Own it.
I'm going to own a part of that statement. Our company probably 5 to 7x during COVID simply because, we were set up to sell products online. The one thing that it did for me that was really positive is my mind goes so quick. I stopped watching the news after like a month. I'm like, all right, this is utter chaos. Like no more news in our house. But the one thing that it did for me that I think was almost godsend was that I truthfully don't remember COVID. I really mean this when I say this to you because we were so busy that it was like head down, building programs. I mean, we had days where we were doing $800,000 a day in sales in one day.
Yeah.
It's just insanity. And so that, I think for me, because of how I'm programmed, I'm not going to do well sitting in a room with the news on watching Joe Exotic at night, right? Like that's not going to work out well for me, right?
Yeah.
And so that kept me really busy.
Yeah. I mean, and I think during that time too, it's like, you had like opportunity to really spend time with your family.
We did, yeah. I mean, we had young kids at the
You had
time,
just bought the house in Saratoga?
we were in Charlton then, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, before we moved, yeah. So it was, it's a weird time.
Yeah, I mean, and you have little kids. Like, I have little kids.
Right.
So, I mean, I think a lot of the things, like, so at that time, Mark
we had a baby
working.
during COVID, Kayla.
You were having a baby.
We delivered a baby during COVID,
Oh, my gosh. With them, so were you there? Because remember, like, they couldn't, some people couldn't be, like, their husbands couldn't be in the room with them during COVID.
Were really cool.
Yeah, she slipped you in the back.
I can be persuasive, so yes. There was no world that exists where I'm missing that.
Right. Well, listen, if you're good in sales and business, you're good.
I had a mask on. I remember having a mask on, and then towards middle of child labor with Rebecca, who did great, no one had masks on after that. We're just kind of, come out, and so, it goes,
Wow.
So.
Yeah. So at the time during COVID, Mark was not working.
Oh, right.
He had just quit his job in January of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And we were gearing up to launch in Schenectady. And so that was a godsend for us, is that I had someone at home.
Yep.
So when COVID was happening, and I do remember what a scary time it was, but I don't know, something inside of me was just like lit up and on fire. Like, this is our opportunity to demonstrate how important community is and collaboration and supporting each other. Yeah. And I don't know if I was just like pulling from Katrina days of like how the entire city of New Orleans came together.
You were there then, right?
We were in college, like an hour and a half away. Sure. But yeah, both of our parents lost, their house, not lost their houses, but it's they were in FEMA we were in FEMA trailers that Christmas. Yeah. And then my in-laws were in a FEMA trailer still the following Easter. So it was just like a total shakeup. And I mean, if you think about everyone and if it's hard for me to think about it right now, but it's like everyone does not have a home. Like, there's nowhere to go to even get the shelter, it's
really
like,
sad.
It was crazy. And in a lot of ways, COVID was like that. Everyone was impacted at some capacity, but I was so grateful to have Mark was home. And actually my in-laws had just moved up here. They'd gotten an apartment for, a year in January. So they were spending time. So I was really capable and able to be all in the business. And, we were deemed essential. And I was like, we're essential, we're food, I mean, I just did everything I could to just rally and, including dancing on TikTok and
you were doing all the things. I think it takes that though. I think it takes if you want to build something special, truly special, something that has impact, that gets big, right? I think it takes immediate and full focus on whatever that is that you're trying to accomplish. And so, how I have the VA business model. That was really what got me to where I am today. Like, no bullshit, because when we first started our first company, I was in a jail-sized cubicle, right? Like eating ramen noodles, building our company. And we were making money at this time, Catherine, but we couldn't pull it out of the business because we were doing so much volume that we had to keep buying inventory, right? Mm-hmm. So you can't really take a dividend until you grow a company. And so what I was finding was I was working 16 hours a day. Literally, you can ask Rebecca. And it was not conducive to your mental health, to a marriage, to relationships, to anything. And so I'm like, there's got to be an easier way to do this. And, we're going back almost 7-8 years right now. Everybody's talking about, virtual assistants. And so I remember going on trying to figure out how to do this, right? Like, I would hire somebody from Upwork and they would just go dark on me after a month of training them, putting in so many hours to train them. Finally, when I found a good mixture of folks, I learned how to do this through 5 failures of VAs. No bullshit, I failed 5 times. And I knew I had to figure it out. You want to know why? I couldn't afford to hire people at the salaries of what we do. Those hires were $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 a year. Depending on what the skill set was. So when I grew that, I realized I can do this in any business model. And so what I do today is, we have 19 different companies. I build a company. Here's the goal. I build a company because I know how to build it to where it can grow. Once I build that company to where it can grow, I immediately divorce myself from that company. I bring in really smart people to run said company, and I leave because I get bored.
Yeah.
So I like building businesses, and then I like just kind of being high level. I'm an architect.
But you're not selling them.
Some we do.
Some you do.
don't.
Yeah, it just depends.
Yeah. We have a brand that we're entertained selling right now. So, we're in talks with folks.
Yeah. So it's just like you just always wheeling and dealing.
Well, we like to build stuff from scratch, and the things that are really special will continue to grow. Sometimes you build a brand, that brand might peak.
Well, let's talk about that. Like, when do you know when it's like, listen, this is not working? Small business owners, I find, are a lot, traditionally mom and pops. They're tied to the business, and if something's not working, it's very hard to walk away.
Yeah.
Now, people ask me this about, like, I had a paint and sip in Latham. Mm-hmm. And we had a 5-year lease.
That's how you started,
right?
5
years. Paint and sip.
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
No, it's still going.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, we have the Saratoga one on Henry Street still.
Cool.
So maybe this is advice for myself. When do you walk away? But like in Latham, it was like the rent was more expensive. I think the bottom line just wasn't what it was in Saratoga. We walked away, and a lot of people were like, "How could you? You let people go?" And I was like, it's a business. At the end of the day, it is a business, right? I can't be bending over backwards making a business work that's not working for me.
Right.
So great, it's a fun business and it's making an impact and whatnot, but I got to eat.
Yeah, no,
and I also have to stay married is the goal as well. Yeah,
and like for us, when we look at a brand, you were talking about like when do you think to sell it? So any brand that we go to sell is extremely healthy.
Or not just to sell, but just like to put a fork in it and be like, we're done. This is not working. Like
that's never happened to us. Truthfully, that's never happened to us only because we're very meticulous about products that we sell. So we study the market, we look at the velocity. We know before we even start to build product that we can succeed in that category. Mm-hmm. And so, we've done everything from like our pillow program was a top seller on Amazon. We were kicking the My Pillow guys every day, that guy with the mustache. Yeah.
So when you go to Amazon now and you go to buy a pillow, chances are very high that we're buying a pillow from you.
No, not anymore, because we sold it to a company that was not great operators, but they paid a nice premium. They raised $3 billion, and their model was to go in and buy folks like myself. So they were buying these companies that were best sellers in every category, and they were paying monster premiums for them. This was when EBITDA valuations were 5, 6, 7, 8x on product, which is like unheard of right now. And they had an ops problem. So they thought that they could buy a bestseller on Amazon and it would sit.
And just keep going.
It doesn't work like that because there's 25 Derricks coming after that top spot. So if you're not good at ops, you're not going to hold there. So I think that program kind of fizzled out. They had bought a couple pillow programs.
So do you have any, you probably know that you could get back into that business and scale it, right? But do you have any desire? Are you been there, done that? We're on to other things now.
Yeah, we're looking, we are doing all the programs that we're doing now are subscribe and save programs. So example, if you took beauty, concealer, eyeliner, nail polish, this is an item and a category where folks, once they find a product they like, they don't even think about it. They click subscribe and save. They throttle when they're receiving their products. So they might get it every 30 days, every 60 days. You know how Amazon gives you that offer? We do that on Shopify as well. So you're amassing a book of business. Here's why that's important, right? Like you have pallet. So you have a multitude of members. Those members, correct me if I'm wrong, they pay a monthly fee. Is that correct?
Right, or so annual.
Yeah, MRR and ARR. Right? That you can base valuations off of. So how I look at this model is if I amass 100,000 subscribe and save users, depending on what your line is and kind of what your profit margins are, that conceivably could be a $500 to $800 million valuation, depending on how you're positioning that company. Mm-hmm. If you have technology, which we just brought on a fantastic AI developer, oh my God, this guy's incredible. We're building things. It's frightening what we're building right now. But so that's how I view the market now. Whereas if you're just selling pillows, how often do you buy a pillow, right? Or an air mattress or a digital weight scale? These are commoditized. You buy them once, maybe a couple of years later, you get another one. You can't really put a sound EBIT evaluation on that. Let's say you have a brand that makes $6 million a year. That's great. Don't get me wrong. That's your net profit on that. That brand, theoretically, if there's no subscribe and save, maybe you get a 4x multiple on it, maybe.
You can kind of see the evolution of your expertise or your entrepreneur journey is you're getting more like, meticulous
savvy
and like, subscriptions, recurring revenue. There we go. Like when you were in the pillow business, it just wasn't as lucrative.
It was very lucrative.
But it was, you know what I'm saying? So it's all comparative.
It was lucrative,
relative.
but I think when you're looking to position, kind of like what we were just talking about, when you want to build something special and big and unique, I think you need to look at, where is this in 5 years? Are we simply a company that just sells this particular product and our customer might buy it maybe once every 4 years, for example? Where if you're building beauty brands or any brand that's got subscribe and save, I think that the delta of that, if you're looking from a valuation standpoint, it's apples and oranges. You know, I mean, if you have technology that folks have not seen, that's what we're building right now around the e-commerce space. We're building technology basically where you could drop products in a black box and it will skin everything out. It will do everything. Every component that you can think of, creating the listing, creating the copy, creating the imagery, creating the brand story, creating the brand itself, anything that you want to talk about in that respect. That's kind of how we view this market moving forward.
Wow, yeah. And then that's listed in all the, not just Amazon, but everywhere.
Anywhere you want to be. I think today, I learned this from a very successful guy, it's not really omni-channel anymore, it's every channel. To build a real brand, you have to be everywhere. You have to be what's called unavoidable. Like if I go search for a product online and I use whatever keyword it is, if I sell in that category and you don't see me 2 to 3 times in your search, I'm doing something wrong. That's the standard that we hold it to right now. So unavoidable is what wins right now. Quality content, killer video, UGC, like we were talking about there, user-generated content. User-generated content converts extremely well. And it was the example I gave you. I walk in, I got the phone flipped this way. Hey, I'm at Catherine's podcast. Blah, blah.
Yeah.
Because it's real, it's authentic. People look at that and they're not scrolling away from that because it's not a sponsored ad. You don't get that vibe from it.
There will always be more consumers than there are creators, right? So which one are you, right? I consider myself a creator.
Of course.
But like, so when I'm on Instagram and I'm just like, I do scroll past the user generated stuff because it's like I know that they are selling me something, you know.
I watch it.
So it's just like, I
watch it purposely.
I love to see what people are doing, but it's also like it's just going to keep on evolving, right? And unfortunately, the consumers are not evolving as fast. I feel like for example, like my mom doesn't know when she's watching something, and then it's just like, then I'm seeing all of these ads, and it's like, right, because your phone's listening to you, and you're clicking on things and you're watching things, like it's consuming you, right?
Age demographic though too,
right? But I mean, well, okay. So do your kids have social media and tablets and all this stuff?
No.
Ruby, my 5-year-old, is like dying for a watch. Like
they have tablets, but they don't have social media.
Well, no, I mean they don't have social media, but even like, I don't know, their brains are. I can just see that they're. I
think like the tablet time and the screen time for children, I think is probably one of the worst things that you could have for them. And listen, like we're guilty of it, but me and Becca limit it. So, in the summer we were letting the boys have anywhere from like a half hour to an hour a day. Now that it's school time and we prep them for this, like we wanted to make sure we got their psyche.
Yeah, they don't like lose it when you tell them.
Yeah, they have no tablet during the week. They watch a 20-minute show at night. That's their bedtime show. That's all the screen time they're getting right now. That's all they need.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Ava's 12 now. She's in 8th grade. Oh my God, I feel so old when I say that, right? She's 12.
She's 12,
She's 12. She's in 8th grade. And
she's not a teenager yet, though. Hold on to those years.
But all of her friends have TikTok. And when she was, saying to me, can I have TikTok? I said, when you're 13, because that's what the TOS says. So I kind of like pulled that card, like, it says 13,
Yeah,
But Wes, our 6-year-old, came home yesterday and he goes, Dad, I think I need TikTok. And I go, how do you know what TikTok is? What are you talking about? And there was another 6-year-old girl in his class who said that she has TikTok. So I can only assume that 6-year-old somehow can get into one of the parents' tablets or phones and is like consuming TikTok content, which is frightening, obviously.
Yeah.
And so I explained to him that there's no world that exists where you're getting TikTok, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. Or
So,
the other thing that I think I've heard lately is like the Snapchat, which
Yeah.
makes me so nervous.
My
I'm
daughter
like,
does have that.
I can't. So
She
you
does
can't
have
see what
Snapchat.
she's seeing
Yeah. I mean, here's the reality, right?
or what she's sending.
Agreed. But here's the reality. If you, I think, are too harsh with it, what happens, right? Like, I feel like kids kind of revolt a little bit, right, when they become of age.
Right.
So,
it's why I didn't have a drinking problem in college because I'd
There you
been
go.
drinking since I was 13.
there you go. Right. There you go.
It's
And
New
so-
Orleans. It's the culture.
So what I've done with Ava over the course of like the last 3 years, this might sound crazy to viewers, but it works. I have taught her what social media is designed to do. So what I mean by that is I found the perfect way to do this. So we would scroll TikTok or IG together, right? And what I would do purposely is I would click on a beauty ad, and then I would leave that beauty ad, and then I would scroll. And now IG is conditioned to know that I want to see something like that. But what I was showing her wasn't about the ads. I was showing her what the ad is designed to do and make you feel, right? We all know this. Like, ads are designed to play on an emotion. And oftentimes in beauty, that's not a great emotion, because a lot of times in beauty, what a lot of brands do is they show really unfavorable before and after. They're trying to make someone feel a certain type of way. And so I wanted her to understand that. I wanted her to know, okay, I see what they're doing. It's just like how you said when you're scrolling, you don't stop at that because you know what that is, right?
Yeah.
I feel like if I can arm her with that information, she doesn't need to feel bad about herself if she sees things or is being targeted properly.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of the danger of social media. Social media is a dangerous place if you don't truly know what it is.
Yeah.
You have to know what it is. You have to know what it's doing.
Right.
You know, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. So I saw you just went on a run with Ava.
did.
She
I
was the
did.
first, was it 5K or something?
5K, yeah.
Oh,
Up in
cool.
Lake George. Yeah, it was fun.
Awesome.
She did great.
Yeah.
She did great, yeah.
So I remember when I didn't run in high school or anything. I didn't do anything active
Yeah.
but party in high school
You?
and college.
No.
No, I just.
We would have been in trouble.
I like to have
early.
a lot of. I even to the point when I opened Paint and Sip, prior to opening Paint and Sip, when I was like trying to figure out what I wanted to do with myself. I can remember talking to my mom about this, and she's like, "Well, Katie, what do you want to do? Like, what do you like? What do you think you're
Is
good
that
at?"
what she called you, Katie?
Yeah, I'm Katie back home.
Can
Yeah.
I call you Katie?
Yeah, sure. Sure. It's next level. Well, when Katie Willis shows up, then you know you're in trouble. Like I was Katie Willis
that-
on
you had,
Friday
like,
for
an
my
alter ego?
birthday.
Yeah.
Well, growing up, I was, Katie Willis. That's my middle name and that's my maiden name. And I was just wild. I like to party.
Yeah.
And, but when I moved to Saratoga and I opened Paint and Sip, there was like this one time I went to speak to somebody about something and maybe this is just like my personal like bullshit that I have with me, but I look young and then my name is Katie. I'm like, I gotta go by Catherine and like more professional and, take myself more seriously. And then people will take myself more seriously. So there's been an evolution of my.
You're like an actor. That's what actors do. It's like your actor name.
Yeah.
But you are Katie for the majority of your life. Now you're Catherine.
Yeah.
Was that hard to transition to?
Well,
I'm interviewing you.
Yeah, well, it
Was that tough?
was when I was getting married. So I just like when I changed my last name, I just went back
You're
to my
like
real
full
name.
name shift.
Full name, Catherine Hover sounds. I do think sounds more professional and mature than Katie Willis. And if you knew me as Katie Willis, you would frickin' agree. You would be like, yeah, Katie, she was not going to amount to anything. But like, I remember telling my mom in this conversation, like, I just like to show people a good time.
Sure.
And she's like, well, there's a way to monetize that, you know? So think about what that would look like. And I'm like, well, I think I should own a bar. I think that I should like start a bar. No, that's not what we're going for.
But that's like what we talked about earlier, kind of channeling that energy into something productive. Like I partied a lot when I was younger. And then one day I realized if I continue to party like this, there's no world that exists where I reach the goals that I want. I just intuitively knew it. I intuitively knew it. And so I knew I had to kind of filter that energy into something different, into something creative, right? Like I believe me and you we're both creatives, right? I am a creative at the end of the day because my job in my company is to build the concepts of the brand. Like I really am fascinated with human psychology, like how to create something that gets your interest that I might be able to either help you with and or sell you a service that helps you, right? Product, stuff like that. So I think it's transitioning that mindset into positive
well,
shit.
I also think you got to be ready for it, right? Like there wasn't. I mean, if the conversation with my mom about starting a paint and sip happened when I was 23, I would be like, I was just like such a hard ass and just like such a pain.
Yeah.
And it was like I opened it when I was 25. I was like ready. I was ready to like prove to myself that I could actually get my shit together and do something.
Yeah.
And
I was not ready at 25. I did not have my shit together at 25.
Do you have this sense of like, it's because this is another thing that I am becoming more aware of is just like the sense of urgency. Like I got to do this now. I got to do it right now. I got to do it as quickly as possible, put it into the world and then on to the next thing. It's like this sense of just like, tomorrow's not promised, right?
Well,
like,
you know how when you're young, you feel invincible? Right? You know that feeling when you're young? I did. I felt invincible when I was younger. What I mean by that is just death was never a thought process around that. And now that I'm 41, I have limited time. That's how I view this, right? I have limited time here. What do I want to accomplish in that limited time? And the way that I partied didn't have an area in that limited time anymore. And so now it's more, I want to build cool businesses. I want to invest in cool companies. I want time with my children. I want to travel more. And then working towards those goals, setting those goals and then working towards them. A lot of people like me and you could spitball all these goals we have. But if we take no action to work towards them, none of it, none of it comes to fruition.
Yeah. And so how do you hold yourself accountable? You work out, you eat right, I
eat right most of the time. How do I hold myself accountable? So I write everything down that I want to do. Like whether it's a goal or an area in my life that I want to change. And I think that the power in that is you have to tell somebody. If you don't tell anybody, there is no accountability. So if I said to you, for example, this is a business that I'm starting, and by this date, this is my goal, and I want to have this many end users. Let's revisit together in 3 months. And 3 months goes by. And you're willing to hold me accountable, and we sit down, and I'm like, I secured the domain. And you're like, that's it? Well, I got the domain, but I got busy. So I'm going to give you a lot of excuses of why I didn't get to where I was. Yeah. I think it's important because if I respect you, right, the person that I'm telling this to, I want to do this for a number of reasons, but I don't want to be viewed in a certain way, but I want to actually accomplish my goal. So I think that there's accountability when you tell folks what you want to do. A lot of people.
So you have those people in your life that.
I got great people in my life. Yeah. Like great mentors in my life. My business partner is my mentor. He's the best mentor I ever had. One of my best friends, Yeah.
And he'll call you out on your bullshit too. He's not just like blowing smoke up your ass.
I wouldn't say more of a call out. I would say I learn from him just by simply watching him. But he's helped me in so many areas of my life, personal, professional, anything I can think of. He's just he's a good egg.
That's awesome. So it's all about the people you're surrounding yourself with.
What's that saying? I think it's like the 5 people you hang out with the most. I think that it's the 5 or 6 people in your group. You're generally a reflection of that.
Yeah, you're the average. You're the average of the 5 people you hang out with. Go. And sometimes you bring it down the average, and sometimes you bring it up.
That's right.
All right, guys, I'm so excited to tell you about a groundbreaking solution for entrepreneurs and professionals, which we use at Palette called Preparo. It's this amazing virtual assistant relief service. Preparo isn't just another VA like you've probably been served on social media. It's a game changer, a revolution in the world of virtual assistants. Their platform has redefined the way we work and get things done. And who doesn't need some help to gain some time back in their life? Picture a world where you can focus on what your best use of time is in your business or personal life without the overwhelm of tasks piling up. That is exactly what Preparo is all about. Whether you need administrative support, data entry, research, or any other task you find yourself doing over and over and over again, Preparo offers a team of skilled virtual assistants who are top-notch and incredibly efficient. They've got you covered. What sets Preparo apart is their commitment to your success. They're your partner in achieving your goals. They take the time to understand your needs and tailor their assistance to help you thrive. We literally could not do Palette without them. So if you're looking to supercharge your productivity and reclaim your time, Preparo is the solution for you. They're not just a virtual assistant service. They are your partner in your journey to success. So what's one tip that you would tell your younger self? Yeah.
What's one tip I would tell my younger self? And this encompasses everything. So it's not just business. Fear is not real. Fear is not real. Meaning we give fear too much emphasis. If you looked at your fears over the course of time, I would say 99.9% of them never actually happen. They're in your head. They live in your head. And I think that fear is one of the main things why people never go do what they want to do in life.
Yeah.
Fear is not real. That's the one tip.
So I am like a big person on like the fear of regret. Like that's a real thing for me. And that is such a driver. Like I do not want to be on my deathbed thinking I didn't do X, Y, Z.
Never went after that one thing and then you regret it.
Yeah. And then you just feel like shit.
Yeah, you do.
So yeah. Just
Feel like shit and you're dying.
And you're dead.
You're dying and you feel like shit at the same time.
Well, listen, this is like, I had this like, sort of like thought this about a month ago. I had this whole horrible health scare. I was in the hospital, and like the aftermath of that was like, I was like, I felt pretty proud of like what I've done up until this point. And not like I'm like ready to call it quits, but I was just like,
cool though.
This
you
is
were
fucking
there
awesome.
in that moment.
Yeah, like
and you're like, I accomplished it.
Multiple people told me like, they don't understand how I didn't die because people die of this thing, and I lost a lot of blood, and I was just like, so it was like a cluster in my head, and thank God I have people around me that are. Like my friend that's like psychiatrist. I'm like, I called him up and I'm like, is this? I don't know what's going on, but I am not well, you know? And he's like, listen, you almost died. And that like, this is going to happen. But the ultimate determination that I made was just like, what else do I have to do? If you feel so accomplished and you feel like, okay, I've done all the things and my kids are happy and surrounded by awesome people who will love them. It's like, what else do I have to do? Sort of like thought also. So it's been a shake up, but like definitely the fear of regret has gotten me there. So awesome. Well, thanks for being here.
This was fun. Thank you for having me.
Come back anytime.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. And if you want to connect with me, slide into my DMs on Instagram. My handle is Catherine Hover.